Welcome back to Young Trip Reactions. The first video we're going to do is Woman is Terrorized and House Raided for a Man That's Already in Jail. Let's get into it.
Cops terrorize a black woman. However, in the raid, they were looking for an incarcerated man. It's unfreaking believable. Here it is.
There was a lot of banging and jiggling of the doorknob. They were screaming. Something's hitting the door repeatedly. I had no idea who was at the door. And I opened the door, and I'm immediately lit up like a Christmas tree with dozens and dozens of guns and beams all over my body. I'm immediately...
They instantly had the push button machines out and beams instantly ready to use. Like I always say, I will always hold these uncivilized mutt cops accountable every single time. Every time. As a person who always wanted to be a homicide detective, I've never been the type of mindset in my mind to thought that, if I was ever able to be a cop, I would be able to, I'll be so ready to use my push button machine. These uncivilized, racist, unmut cops have to be held accountable. They were looking for a man and raided a woman's home. Let's continue.
Pulled out into the hallway at gunpoint, and I'm made to walk down the hallway. I wasn't shown any ID. I wasn't shown any warrant. I wasn't shown a search warrant, an arrest warrant, a badge. I had no clue who they were. Immediately, I'm being threatened with being thrown into jail. Like, where is he? Where are you hiding him? Where is he? You know, if you're lying to us, you're going to be going to jail.
Where is he? Where are you hiding him? Oh, just wait. You still ain't heard nothing yet. Let's continue.
I have no idea what they're talking about, and I finally just say, who? And they say, Joshua Smiley.
She don't even know who Joshua Smiley even is. Don't even know who he is, y'all. Let's continue.
And as I'm showing them pictures of my children, they're like, show me another one, show me another angle, show me another angle. At that point, the officer in charge tells me, I think there's been a mistake.
You say I think it's been a mistake. After you've already raided her home, trashed her home, threatened to throw her in jail over somebody she didn't even know. This is crazy. See, if I was able to do this job, I would make sure that I'm looking for the person who I'm looking for and making sure I know all their relatives, all that before I go execute warrants and busting up in people's homes. Holding push button machines, bean bags, and all types of bean bag machines and all that to them. Young Trip is always going to be right here to hold you uncivilized mutt cops accountable. Along with Willie D, who already does it. Along with Rashad Ritchie here, who also already does it. Y'all just going to have to continue to pay out people because y'all just want to harass people by their race and whatever else that makes you think that they're a criminal. Let's continue. Y'all just going to continue to cost the state and federal government money because they're just going to have to continue to pay out people. because y'all so quick to pull out your push button machines and hold push button machines to people and beanbag machines and threaten to throw people in jail if they don't tell you where people are at that they don't even know. Let's continue.
I can't imagine. Put it up.
Full mass.
Cops terrorized this black woman in a raid. Federal lawsuit has now been filed against the U.S. Marshals Service, the DeKalb County Sheriff's Office, and 15 cops who raided Cathy George's home, accusing them of violating her 4th, 5th, and 14th Amendment rights.
These are federal officers. These aren't even Georgia state officers. This is the federal government. How do you not know who you were looking for and who their relatives are to know that you are raiding the wrong home? This woman is not related to this man, did not know this man. She's showing pictures of her own children to prove that she don't even know this dude, that it's not none of her kids, not nobody she know. And y'all still raided her home, trashed her home, and just left like, oh, this is a mistake, and just walked out like you just bumped her on the shoulder. And now there's a federal lawsuit that has been filed that now money has to be paid out to her that could have went to God knows what other police stuff for the federal government, for the roads to be fixed, anything. Federal buildings being updated. Instead, because uncivilized mutt cops went into the wrong home looking for somebody at somebody else's home that was not even related to them, and stormed into her home, trashed her home, had her show pictures of her own children and relatives to prove that she didn't even know who this person even was. And now our taxpayer dollars has to go to paying Miss George, as it should due to the situation now. But it's the point that it should have been avoided all along by making sure you knew you're the federal government. You should know who is related to who. You could easily figure that out as federal agent police officers. That's a damn shame. But instead, you were just so quick to assume you knew where you were going, assume that this lady was related to this man, and stormed into her home and trashed it. And having her show you pictures of her own relatives to prove that this person was not her relative. A damn shame. Let's continue.
The 15 cops who ransacked her home while dressed in riot gear and terrorized her at gunpoint threatened her with arrest if she did not inform them of the whereabouts of a guy named Joshua Smiley, who has no known ties to the state of Georgia. This incident...
Did you hear that? He didn't even have no ties to Georgia. Now, I don't know if he was, maybe he went there to travel there just to be there. Maybe he took a trip there. Maybe they were watching him. There's no telling, because the federal agents and federal police and the federal government, they'll follow you around the places. They got people watching you. So I don't know if he went there. Maybe he was in that area. I don't know. Maybe they were just being racist and they saw Miss George. And, he was in that area, so they assumed, or maybe she's one of the only African-American people who live in the neighborhood. I don't know. But it's also, you got to forget, this is Atlanta. A lot of black people live there. So there's no telling what made them assume, if that's what they were doing, that Miss George was related to Mr. Smiley. This is crazy. Let's continue.
Took place at 5 a.m. on October 24th, 2023. DeKalb County.
At 5 o'clock in the morning, somebody's raiding your home while you're inside, probably sleeping, probably just now opening your eyes, probably getting ready for work. And all of a sudden, there's federal agents trying to bust up in your house. This is crazy. Let's continue.
Is located in the metropolitan area of Atlanta. It sits right next to Fulton County. After they left, George searched Smiley's name and discovered the man.
Check this out. Check this out. Check this out.
Who had been listed as one of the 15 most wanted fugitives in the country, had been arrested 4 months earlier in Indiana.
You hear that? She researched. These federal officers didn't even know. She researched that he was already arrested 4 months prior. A woman that's not even a police officer. A woman that probably never even thought about wanting to be one. She sat down at her computer or looked up on her cell phone and figured out that he was already arrested 4 months prior to them raiding her home and trashing her home and assuming that she knew him and assuming that she was related to him. This is crazy. This is why these uncivilized mutt cops have to be held accountable and making sure that they check everything before they continue to go and look for somebody to make sure that they're not already in custody. As a person who always wanted to do this job, I would make sure and check all databases, especially at a federal level, to make sure that they're not already in custody before I decide to go and get a crew together, from, my police crew or whatever, if I was the head leader, to go and raid a home that suspected in the area of where he was. That is crazy. Let's continue.
Now, she found this out. But somehow word of his arrest somehow never reached the federal agents who targeted her home. Quote, before raiding Miss George's home, the officers did not check to see if Joshua Smiley was still at large, states the claim. Quote, and yet they planned the raid of Miss George's home ahead of time, talking to the condominium building, gaining access to...
You hear that? They didn't check to see if he was already in custody, but they took all the time in the world to plan to raid Miss George's home. What a trip. Let's continue.
Locked entrances to Miss George's home in an upscale Atlanta suburb. end quote. Imagine that. They come to your home for a guy that they have in custody. And instead of the investigators figuring this out, you do. After you have been unlawfully, immorally targeted, when simple investigative prowess would have revealed, listen, guys, we already have him. What are we doing? But she found. Meanwhile, the dangerous criminal they were seeking was already behind bars 1 week after he was placed on the most wanted list. Smiley remains in custody while Ms. George, who remains traumatized by the botched raid, says she moved from the apartment where she lived for 3 years.
She had to move because she was so terrified. She moved out of the condominium that she lived at for 3 years. The federal government should pay for her new place for the next 3 years. That's insane. Let's continue.
Because of the horrible memories from that night. That is terror. George's ordeal is the latest in a long line of botched raids on the homes of innocent people over the years. So sad. Sharing thoughts here.
Yeah, I'm just beyond. I'm a woman with a child, but I don't care if I was a 6'7" MVP and somebody comes at your door with this kind of fierceness and a happy trigger finger. You don't know what could happen here. This is undeniably traumatic, and we've got to figure out, and I know this is one of the things you're the best at. I call this the show of record. We got to figure out where things transpire from here and what is actually done. And perhaps the more indisputable chronicles it, Doc, the more holding their feet to the fire will be applicable.
Yeah, and also cases like this tend to be adjudicated. And a bunch of money goes to the individual who became a victim, and it brings a lot of light to the matter. Usually, Sharon, there's an investigator who checks to make sure that the individual has not been arrested or apprehended in another state, another jurisdiction. And obviously, those protocols were not in place here.
Checks and balances is kind of what you're referring to, right?
That's
you
right.
Do it on this show and proudly present material to your viewers, your listeners. But apparently, when guns are drawn, it's less important.
Yeah, that's wild, isn't it?
If this is how your tights looks like, and you want them to look like this Monday, April 27th, starting.
Man, that is absolutely insane. That is absolutely insane that these uncivilized mutt cops did what they did, stormed Miss George's home, and, held push-button machines and bean bags at her, raided her home, assumed that she knew somebody that she didn't know. Like I said, I'm going to always hold you uncivilized mutt cops accountable as a person who always wanted to do this job and could not due to the lack of my eyesight situation. I'm just as happy to sit here and call out you uncivilized mutt cops with Rashad and Willie D and whoever else that does this. Let me know what y'all think about this. I'll have the original video pinned at the top of the chat as always, and a link in the description. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell notification. I drop videos like this every day. Different topics though, but videos, that are connected to crazy situations every day. And I will catch y'all on the next one. Peace.